SimWorld presents Around the Table with E and the Fat Man.
What's up, everybody? It's me, it's the B.O.B., and I'm here with my man, E. E, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good, Bob. I am excited to dive into today's topic, to change our pace, change our MO a little bit here.
Absolutely. Well, this is Around the Table with E and the Fat Man. That is E. I'm the Fat Man, and this is the podcast where we talk about whatever we want, generally sports related. Today, we've been talking a lot about the race to one. Who's going to be in the race to one? Who are the favorites in the race to one? You know what we haven't talked about, E?
What's that?
The race to number 32.
Oh, yeah, the other end of the spectrum. You know, there's always a yin and yang. There's always a, black and white, north and south. You can't have a top without a bottom, and I guess we're going the other direction today.
Absolutely, and I think what we should start out with is, obviously, we're going to have a number 32, but we might have some honorable mentions heading there. Do you have one or two honorable mentions that you think, they're maybe not as bad as number 32, but they're right there?
Yeah, I do. I'll kick this off. You know, one that might be an honorable mention for you too. I could definitely see it because I think they're clearly a candidate. I don't think anybody's going to find this call shocking. The North. And the North has even had like a couple, decent wins, an upset here or two lately. And I feel bad for them, and I think it's easy to feel bad for the North. Before the season even started, they lost Tyson Simpson. And that's a blow that not many teams are going to get over, much less Canada. And the second thing is that they've been playing without a coach for quite some time now, too.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a mess up there in Toronto. It's kind of amazing that a 7-18 team, a team with a 28% winning percentage, actually has three players who are in the SimWorld Top 100 rankings. And Alex Rodriguez, 6'4" wing player, good player, averaging 14.5 up there. Not shooting a great percentage, but I mean, he's the number one and really kind of main/only offensive option. That's not quite true, but whatever. But he's a good player. He's going to have a good career. You can also say nice things about Donovan Bird-Culver. Jalen Tucker's a good rebounding undersized center. But I think the other thing that has really just kind of killed this team this year, Marcus Leifat, and it hasn't gotten much talk that how much of the Tyson Simpson split was maybe related to Leifat, and now it's Leifat's team in Toronto and all the rest of this. Boy, has he struggled this year, averaging 37% from the field, under 10 points a game, a pretty modest 2.5 assists a game. It's just kind of been a disaster for the North this year. They can't get anything to go right. And I'm giving them an honorable mention because I can't rule out the idea of them just maybe only winning a couple more games the rest of this year and maybe really, ending up clearly in that 32 bottom spot in SimWorld hoops.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. They're definitely one of my honorable mentions. I mean, it's unfortunate for players like A-Rod and Enzo Wolf and that with so much upside. But yeah, the step back of Marcus Leifat, I would assume is fully contributed to Tyson Simpson leaving. Obviously they butt heads a little bit last season. However, still they had a little bit of a relationship on the court, which is hard not to when you have a big guy like Tyson Simpson, a big athletic guy like Tyson Simpson. It's hard not to have some kind of guard sticking out as a good guard. It's like, was he really a good guard, or was he just was he a beneficiary of Tyson Simpson? But yeah, I mean, I don't see them winning too many more games this season. No. I again feel bad for like A-Rod and Enzo. Hopefully next season, if they're still with the North, they have a new coach, or hopefully for them they go find a better spot for them. Because I don't know right now.
It doesn't look good. And this is a 17-year-old heavy team too, right? Yeah. It's not a bunch of kids out there. There's a few youngsters, Donovan Bird-Culver, who was the 99th ranked player in SimWorld, and Enzo Wolf, who's just 15 years old. Not killing it statistically this year, but I've watched a few of Enzo's games. He can play. Maybe there's some diamonds in the rough or lights at the end of the tunnel, whatever metaphor you want to roll with there. But this year, it's just not happening for the North. Well, I like it when we agree, Bob. I like it when we're of like mind. So that was nice to have an honorable mention there, turn up the same, even if it's bad news for the North. But who's your other honorable mention candidate? Because I might have gone off the reservation a little with mine. Who you got?
I think I did too. I mean, record wise, they're definitely not. They still have a bad record, but there are a couple teams underneath them. And I'm holding against this team the way they started the season to how they, after 5 games, how they decided to go.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, I think. But spit it out.
So I have to go with SimWorld South America.
Yeah,
they started out. We were talking about them being one of
the
top 5 teams, and possibly the top team in SimWorld hoops up there with Lone Star and Houston, or H Town. Sorry, and Patricio Ramirez. He's still a really really good player. But
agreed.
Outside of him, every now and again, Sampaio does have some highlight plays. But outside of some highlight plays from him and Abalume, nobody does anything on this team outside of Ramirez. Like, yeah, Sampaio does average 10 points a game. That's fine. But when he's the second leading scorer and the next highest scorer is Patricio Ramirez with 13.5, I mean, there's not a whole lot of offense on this team. I mean, you look at it, they're the 30th ranked offense with 63.4 points a game. And they really don't do a whole lot good. So again, it's just, I know there are some teams with worse records, but just them starting out 5-0, and then I think, what did they lose? They lost double digits in a row. I think
straight.
They
lost 10 straight.
They lost 10 straight, and that's just. Are there some other teams that played a lot worse than them? Absolutely, but just going from the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain, just it sticks
like
with me.
That. Yeah, it's a fair call out. And, it is funny to think back South America at the start of the season. We were talking about them. Yeah, maybe like top 5 in all of SimWorld, certainly being one of the top contenders in the SimWorld global game. But a couple things about them. First of all, Patricio Ramirez, he is a player. Let's not forget that. He's a force. He's great. But he's also the only remotely big man they have. This is the smallest team, the shortest team by average in SimWorld hoops, and I think that's certainly caught up with them. And the other thing I want to mention is, at the start of the year, Mike House was playing great for South America, and he was the American on the roster. We were talking about Mike House as another one of these, amazing Texan kids. He's from Killeen, Texas, who was just dominating SimWorld. And to say he is cooled off would be a bit of an understatement. Still averaging 7.4 points a game, but shooting 31% from the field. Yeah, that speaks for itself right there. And it's just a question of, roster construction here. I clearly think, like I said, this short, undersized team really does have to rely on Ramirez to pick up their wins. And, not doing enough of it. So I like that call, Bob. Definitely a great honorable mention call, and somebody that I thought about too when I was looking at the rankings. But I picked out a team, actually, that, like South America, has a 9-16 record, but I'm not sure if a lot of other people would put them up there in the race to the bottom honorable mention list here like I did. But I had to do it because I'm just so disappointed. It's not only that they are a legit contender for the race to 32. It's that I'm so disappointed in them because really at the start of the year, I thought, this team looks interesting. They could be dangerous. They could be a factor. And if there's one thing they're not, it's that. Queen City Kings. They brought back one of the stars of last season in Norvell DeJean-Jones, who is still ranked 20th overall in the SimWorld recruiting rankings. Now, I could get into a side conversation about how that's nonsense. The kid isn't even shooting 40% from the field. I mean, he is good, but 20th ranked player shooting 39. Come on. And they also brought back some other good players. Deontay Odom was a factor last year, and he's still averaging about 6.5 points, 6.5 rebounds. He's all right. Braxton Schuyler, one of the stars of SimWorld last year, honestly. And this year, he's just a guy. But,
Yeah.
they brought back that returning core. And then on top of that, you bring in Madison Miles, highly ranked big man, who actually, statistics-wise, doing all right. 14 points, 8.5 rebounds, shooting 53%. Sky Durant, 11 points a game, shooting about 50% from the field. Good wing player. There should have been something happening here. Maybe it's the fault of I know you're a fan, so I know this is going to tick you off, Bob, but maybe Coach Dara Simmons just doesn't know how to use these guys. I don't know. But a team up and down this roster, they're getting Division I scholarship offers, and you look at the players individually and you're like, yeah, that guy can play. And 9-16, and they've lost their last 6. They actually got it back to 9-10 at one point, and I thought, like, oh, maybe they're coming together. They were terrible to start, picked it back up, and then once again, just the pieces fall apart. So, and another team, much like the North, where there's a lot of upper class talent on this. Madison Miles is 17. Odom, Skylar, DeJon Jones, all 17. I mean, Sky Durant, 17. Yeah. It's not like these are all kids. There are a few youngsters on the roster I like, particularly Anthony Council and KJ Johnson. KJ's just 15, doesn't play very much, but I think he's got a future. But in the present, these guys suck. I said we were going to be I said we were going to be mean today. Let's just cut right to it. I am so disappointed in Queen City that, there were a few other contenders there too to make this, Oceania you could have thrown in the mix, I think, and SimWorld Africa and a few others that could have got a nomination for honorable mention, dishonorable mention. But I got to give it to Queen City because I'm sour. I'm sour, Bob.
Yeah, I have to agree. For me, Norvell DeJon Jones was, in my opinion, one of the top 2 pure point guards last season. Him and Gaffney were 2 that I thought were some of the best pure point guards in the league, and just they've both not really lived up to what I expected them to live up to this season, especially NDJ. He was such a great facilitator last season, and he is averaging the most assists per game on the team with 3.8. But
I'm renaming him Norvell Disappointment Jones, by the way. I'm sorry, Norvell, but I said I was going to be harsh today. Not cutting anybody slack.
But they do, again, they have some solid, the Anthony Council, the fact that he's not ranked. I know he's not averaging eye-popping numbers or anything like that, but based on pure talent alone, Anthony Council should be. But I can't disagree with you on that. Like you said, kind of went off the rails a little bit, but there's still, I see why. They just, so much talent returning and so much talent added. Why are they 9-16?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we got some, you call them dishonorable mentions out of the way. Who?
Well, you have one more, don't you, Bob?
No, I agreed with you on the first one. That was I would have went with them too. The North was on my list. I have to stick with them. They were very close to being. They were very close to being number 32. I think, but I say very close. But I think number 32 for both of us. I don't think there's an argument against it. So I'll let you go ahead. Let's see if we have the same number 32. You go ahead, E.
I have a feeling that we're going in the same direction. And it's absolutely true. My number 32 team, Run DMV. No, I'm kidding. Number 32 team, and it's not even close. And I'm pretty sure Bob's going the same way here too. They actually did win a game a couple nights ago, but it was only their 4th of the season. They are 4-20. That makes for a 167 win percentage, which is like the 1969 New York Mets, I think. I am talking about SimWorld Middle East.
Yeah.
Unlike Queen City, I don't think anybody came into the season with super high hopes for what Middle East was going to be doing this year, but they've managed not to even come close to reaching that low bar. The team 4-20 kind of speaks for itself, but the fact that they have not been able to do it on either end of the court, this is just fundamentally not a good offensive team. Not one player on the team shoots 50% from the field. MT Bin Hassan, who is the captain and point guard, racking up a 48% overall average, which is by far the team high. And then on defense, it's been a little better. It's been basically the same on that end. There's a couple players on this squad. I actually kind of like Bin Hassan, actually, who's just 16 years old. He'll be coming back. Would also mention Tijas Morabauskas, Lithuanian, made his way onto the Middle East roster this year. Only 15 years old, averaging 11 points a game, actually leads the team in assists, 1.9 per contest, and he's more of a scoring guard than he is a floor general, has distance out to three. He's one for the future. And also last year's star player on Middle East, Azad Abdul Rahman, still filling it up decently, leading scorer at 11.6, has canned 62 threes, which actually makes him fifth most prolific in all of SimWorld. But he's under 40%. This team is, again, just, I'm sorry, they're offensively incompetent. And we were talking earlier, just a minute ago, about Norvell DeJean-Jones and what a crash from the heights this year has been for him. There may be nobody who has collapsed more than Middle East's Omar Haddadi, the Iranian, along with Abdul Rahman. I mean, part of the reason why Middle East actually was like, people were like, at the start of the year, it was like, okay, they might be able to compete and, they might be a 500 kind of ball club or whatever, as they were bringing back the backcourt of Abdul Rahman and Haddadi, which actually was pretty deadly last year. They knocked off some people. They had some big games. Omar Haddadi is falling out of the starting lineup. He's averaging 4 points a game. He's shooting 27% from the field. I can't believe that Blue Buds like Duke, North Carolina, and Kentucky, who were recruiting him last year, are seriously going to offer him a scholarship now when this is all over. He's fallen to pieces. And so has Middle East accordingly. 4-20. I don't know if they're going to get that win percentage up to 20% by the time this year is over. I have very little faith. I think that they are a overwhelming front runner to be this year's bottom team in all of SimWorld.
I mean, it's a little surprising to me. I think we went in a little bit of a different direction here too.
What?
Yeah.
All right.
No time basketball. No, I mean, it's clear that SimWorld Middle East just has not been able to put it together. I really, at the start of the season, Abdul Rahman, he was lights out. Really thought that they might be able to do something with an elite shooter like he is. I'd say he's probably one of the top 10 shooters in all of SimWorld hoops from 3-point range. Obviously, he's forced some things up. His rate as field goal percentage has gone down a little bit, but I just with a player like him, I think on a different team, we would see somebody who had a higher percentage. Maybe there's just not a whole lot. Like you said, Omar Haddadi absolutely just disappeared. He was one of the top international players coming back from last season, and he just absolutely disappeared. Morabauskas, I do think that there was a little bit, I don't know if I want to call it controversy or not. He was a little frustrated with his team. I think it's pretty clear.
Fair enough, right?
Yeah, I think it's clear that he will not be with this team next season, which I think he would have been the lone bright spot returning. And he's only 15 years old. I do believe that we're going to be looking at him on another team. Likely, and it's unfortunate that the international teams suffer as much as they do, but he's probably going to jump stateside. He's probably going to play for a team in the States, and with Abdul Rahman leaving, they're going to be number 32 this season, and I don't think it's going to look much better next year. They just have not been able to, just across the board, worst points per game, worst total rebounds, worst blocks, worst field goal percentage, worst opponent's field goal percentage. It's outside of opponent's 3-point percentage, where they're ranked 11th. They do not, and 3-pointers made for 12, or they're 12th. They don't have another.
They can shoot a little from deep somehow.
They can shoot a little from deep, but they can't stop the shooting from deep. Well, sorry, they can stop it a little bit from deep, but it's just they're ranked in the 20s or worse in every stat but 2, and it's just not. There's zero chance for them to make the race to 1 this season. And
Yeah.
they're going to obviously get in next season since we are going to be allowing every team into the playoffs. So that is their only saving grace. It is extremely difficult to say SimWorld Middle East is not number 32, and they will remain number 32. I mean, they could go on a run for the rest of the season, win all their games. The North could lose, and then obviously we're going to have recency bias, and we're going to go, maybe the North was worse than Middle East, but I don't see that happening right now. Morbauskas has had some good games since his moment with the media, but
I mean, look at it this way. The North is our consensus dishonorable mention candidate, and we're unanimous about Middle East being at the bottom. And if these two played each other tonight, I would say that the North should be like a 7-8 point favorite. That's what it feels like to me. And that's from the number 31 to the 32 team. So there's some drop right there.
Absolutely. Well, we didn't have too much disagreement. I feel like we usually agree on most things. But
yeah.
But
great minds think alike,
Absolutely. Well, great episode. Sorry if anybody feels bad about this episode, but we had to talk about. We warned you. He let you know. But don't be discouraged. If you're on a bad team this season, there's always next season for you to find a new team.
Roster movement all the time. I can't wait for the offseason in a way. That's going to be fun again, watching everybody move around.
It's always off-season's always the best time of the year, isn't it? Well, we appreciate you guys for listening, and we hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend.
Yep. We'll see you soon, folks.